Good morning. So before we start, I want to thank Jane for doing the food drive and encourage you all to make a big pile for the Patriots. Nothing personal, but our opening reading comes from Maya Angelou. Her poem is called On the Pulse of Morning. A rock, a river, a tree, host to species long since departed, marked the mastodon, the dinosaur who left dried tokens of their sojourn here on our planet floor. Any broad alarm of their hastening doom is lost in the gloom of dust and ages. But today, the rock cries out to us clearly, forcefully, "Come, you may stand upon my back and face your distant destiny, but seek no haven in my shadow. I will give you no hiding place down here. You created only a little lower than the angels, have crouched too long in the bruising darkness, have lain too long face down in ignorance. Your mouths spilling, armed for slaughter. The rock cries out to us today, you may stand upon me, but do not hide your face. Across the wall of the world, a river sings a beautiful song. It says, come, rest here by my side. Each of you, a bordered country, delicate and strangely made proud, yet thrusting perpetually under siege. Your armed struggles for profit have left collars of waste upon my shore, currents of debris upon my breast. Yet today I call you to my riverside, if you will study war no more. Come, clad in peace, I will sing the songs the Creator gave to me when I and the tree and the rock were one. Before cynicism was a bloody sear across your brow, and when you yet knew, you still knew nothing. The river sang and sings on. There is a true yearning to respond to the singing river and the wise rock. So say the Asian, the Hispanic, the Jew, the African, the Native American, the Sioux, the Catholic, the Muslim, the French, the Greek, the Irish, the rabbi, the priest, the sheik, the gay, the straight, the preacher, the privileged, the homeless, the teacher. They all hear the speaking of the tree. They hear the first and last of every tree speak to humankind today. Come to me here beside the river. Plant yourself beside the river. Each of you, descendant of some passed-on traveler, has been paid for. You who gave me my first name, you Pawnee, Apache, Seneca, you Cherokee nation who rested with me, then forced on bloody feet, left me to the employment of other seekers, desperate for gain, starving for gold. You, the Turk, the Arab, the Swede, the German, the Eskimo, the Scot, you, the Ashanti, the Yoruba, the crew, brought, sold, stole, arriving on the nightmare, praying for a dream. Here, root yourselves beside me. I am that tree planted by the river, which will not be moved. I, the rock, I, the river, I, the tree, I am yours. Your passages have been paid. Lift up your faces. You have a piercing need for this bright morning dawning for you. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Lift up your eyes upon this day breaking for you. Give birth again to the dream. Women, children, men, take it into the palms of your hands. Mold it into the shape of your most private need. Sculpt it into the image of your most public self. Lift up your hearts. Each new hour holds new chances for a new beginning. Do not be wedded forever to fear, yoked eternally to brutishness. The horizon leads forward. offering you space to place new steps of change. Here on the pulse of this fine day, you may have the courage to look up and out and upon me, the rock, the river, the tree, your country. No less to Midas than the mendicant, no less to you now than the Mastodon then. Here on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes and into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning. So Minneapolis is carrying very deep wounds. Federal agents from immigration and customs enforcement, Homeland Security investigations, and Border Patrol have swept into the city, claiming to pursue dangerous criminals. Instead, their reach has extended far beyond that purpose, detaining people whose cases are still pending, demanding that people of color prove their citizenship, separating parents from their children without warning. Trust, one of the most fragile gifts a community holds, has been shattered. Many no longer believe these agents come with integrity or care. Last week, I spent 2 days in Minneapolis after clergy across the country were asked to come. 1,200 of us, pastors, rabbis, imams, chaplains, gathered to listen to the stories of this city and bear witness to its pain. We came to offer spiritual presence to people who were simply worn down. And we stood together to remind the world that the soul of this nation is not defined by the harshness of any administration, but by the compassion of its people. I was hosted by a couple with 2 teenage daughters, a family living in the shadow of this surge of paramilitary force. In the days before I arrived, the 2 daughters walked out of school in an organized protest, an act that the faculty did not restrict. One parent works daily with the Latina community and described the fear that now shapes every decision families make, the extraordinary measures they take simply to keep their children safe. On Thursday, clergy gathered at a large downtown church. The urgency of this moment was reflected by the speed of our assembly. The national clergy call came on Wednesday. We gathered the following Thursday. Denominations organized home hospitality, coordinated actions, secured venues, gathered resources, and prepared food for 1,200 people. Tables overflowed with warm coats and boots and mittens, scarves, gifts for those who had come from places where Minneapolis winter is unimaginable. Our speakers were leaders of progressive organizations seasoned by years of struggle, from the Black Lives Matter to earlier movements for justice and a strong labor movement. Minneapolis is not new to this work. We heard how neighbors have become lifelines for one another, shopping for families afraid to leave homes, walking children to school, tending to daily needs with quiet courage. Meanwhile, detainees are being sent to Texas for processing. When officials decide there is no cause to hold them, they're released there, thousands of miles from home, with no way to return. It's a cruelty that leaves families shattered and hearts aching. We learned about the community's response to the killing of Renee Good. We heard federal agents described as an occupying force bent on seeding chaos, and we did not yet know that Alex Preddy was walking down the street that very day. We prayed, we sang, we gathered the courage needed for the activism ahead. That afternoon, I joined a group learning how to lead songs at protests, how to energize a crowd, and how to calm it down. We prepared for a demonstration at the downtown Target store, chosen because the corporation contributed $1 million to President Trump's second inauguration, discontinued its DEI program at the president's behest, and allows ICE to use its parking lots around the country as staging areas. Friday morning, I went to All Nations Indian Church, which provides mental health ministry to the largest urban Native American community in the country. Our task was to assemble 500 prayer kits for distribution throughout the community. But, as often happens when you build an airplane in flight, the materials that were scheduled to arrive that morning were delayed because the delivery company was honoring the general strike. So instead, we heard from one of the ministers, Dr. Kelly Sherman Conroy. She is co-minister with her mother, Reverend Joan Conroy. The church is supported by the United Church of Christ and the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. Dr. Kelly spoke about generational trauma. She described visiting the site of the federal hanging of I think 38 Sioux men in Mankato, Minnesota in 1862. Her great uncle was one of those men. She felt the pain in her body, trauma passed down through generations. Others in her community carry similar trauma from an era when Native children were taken from their mothers and sent to white boarding schools. Much of this pain remains unrecognized and untreated, manifesting itself as substance abuse and homelessness. Take that community and layer on top of that the presence of federal agents looking for easy pickings to meet their quotas. Native people are detained as suspected undocumented immigrants. And then they're held while their tribal governments are being pressured to sign cooperation agreements with ICE. Leaders attempt to justify these actions, but their explanations rarely hold up to the light. When people cannot trust their government, we turn to one another. And in Minneapolis, that turning has become a powerful act of love. When ICE arrives, observers follow. Protesters sound whistles to alert neighbors. The witness is peaceful, it's disciplined, it's rooted in the belief that every person deserves dignity. This is not how we are meant to live with one another. Federal power is being used to instill fear rather than foster safety. Yet what those in authority have not understood is that the true strength of this nation rests in its people. Their compassion, their solidarity, their refusal to abandon one another. If our elected leaders will not offer the care and respect every human being deserves, then we will continue to offer it to ourselves as an act of faith, as an expression of who we are called to be. A large contingent of clergy went to the airport Friday morning to protest Avelo Airlines, the carrier ICE uses to fly detainees to southern prisons. My friend Reverend Matt was there with more than 350 clergy. Organizers asked only that Minnesota residents volunteer for the civil disobedience action because, well, the legal support team was already overwhelmed and having to deal with out-of-state arrestees would be too much for them. 100 clergy were arrested, transported by school bus, and processed in time for the rally downtown that afternoon. The airport police were civil and organized. There was no violence. It was all well planned and carried out. Friday afternoon, I joined a demonstration at the large Target store downtown. We'd originally planned to occupy the headquarters because Target is headquartered in Minneapolis. But the company caught wind of our plan, and the organizers were concerned for our safety. The building is a 2-story building with a large entry lobby at a major intersection. We filled the lobby and the walkway up above it. Shoppers who wanted to exit were gently guided through the crowd. We sang, we listened, we chanted demands, and after 30 minutes, we dispersed to join the larger demonstration. Minneapolis is a remarkable city, built for the kind of winter that they experience every year. The rally was held at the Target Center. The Target Center is like the main basketball hockey venue in Minneapolis. But rather than march through the minus 20-degree weather, I took the skywalk. And I wandered comfortably to the venue. And there I met a mentor that I hadn't seen for 12 years. We listened to the speeches, and then we were going to go get some dinner, and spent an hour looking for my car. So I got to spend time out in the cold anyway. And then we shared dinner. It was a wonderful time to meet new people and old friends. Saturday morning, I had breakfast with my hosts, packed my car, and headed home. I was energized, I was inspired, and I was ready for the work ahead. And then I turned on the news. So far this year, Minneapolis has seen 3 homicides, 2 at the hand of federal agents. You know the names: Renee Good, Alex Preddy. You may have watched the videos more time than you can bear. I know I have. In 2025, more than 30 people died in ICE custody. And so far this year, 8 more have died in ICE custody, including Renee and Alex. These 2 killings have drawn national attention not only because the footage contradicts official statements, but because Good and Preddy were white. Suddenly, a broad swath of Americans sees their own families reflected in the danger. This, too, is an expression of what many describe as white supremacy culture. And it is a reality that I want to explore a little bit this morning and a little bit later this afternoon. Today's reflection invites us to look across the landscape of 2026 and notice how the old roots of white supremacy culture still wind through our shared fields. Not to shame, not to scold, but to witness with clarity, courage, and compassion. Many wisdom traditions teach that what goes unnamed grows stronger. The Buddha spoke of avidya, the fog of unawareness that keeps suffering in motion. The Hebrew prophets call out injustice not to condemn the people, but to awaken them. Indigenous teachings remind us that imbalance in the human community disrupts the harmony of the whole ecosystem. And Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Across traditions, this message echoes, we cannot heal what we refuse to see. In 2026, white supremacy culture often shows itself not as a roaring fire, but as a steady, unexamined flame. Familiar, quiet, woven into the structures many take for granted. It appears in the assumption that one way of speaking is professional and another is unrefined. And the stories taught as central and those treated as optional. In the urgency that demands speed over reflection, perfection over relationship, dominance over dialogue. These patterns are not always loud, but they are persistent, shaping the air that we breathe. Yet the pastoral heart of this message is not despair. It is invitation. In the Taoist tradition, water teaches us how to move soft yet persistent, humble yet transformative. Water does not conquer stone by force, but by steady presence. Likewise, the work of uprooting white supremacy culture is not a single act of will. It is the ongoing practice of choosing equity, curiosity, and shared humanity again and again. Imagine our communities as gardens. Some soil has been compacted by generations of exclusion. Some seeds have been scattered but not tended. Some plants have been allowed to grow wild while others have been denied sunlight. The task before us is not to curse the garden, but to cultivate it, to loosen the hardened ground, to plant with intention, to water with patience, to listen to those who know the land differently than we do. The Wisconsin UU State Action Network is currently working alongside the National Side with Love movement and the UU Ministers Association in a coordinated effort to keep pressure on elected officials, to insist that they listen to the needs and the dignity of the people they serve. On Monday, I joined an action day focused on closing the Dilley, Texas Detention Center. Just last weekend, the children inside that facility stood outside in protest, denouncing the conditions they were forced to endure. This is the same center where 5-year-old Liam Ramos and his father are being held after Minneapolis ICE agents used Liam to lure his mother out of their home. The agent refused to leave the child at the door. Had his mother stepped outside, she would have been taken, leaving another child alone inside. The federal officials still wonder why their agents are not trusted. Our action day included phone calls to members of Congress in both Wisconsin and Texas, urging them to close the Texas Family Residential Center, nice name, in Dilley. We called for the impeachment of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, and we demanded that federal agents withdraw from Minnesota. This week, the campaign widens. Unitarian Universalists across the country will participate in a congressional phone blitz. From Monday through Friday, during business hours, UUs will call congressional leaders every 3 minutes. The goal is simple: keep the lines full, keep the pressure steady, ensure that Congress cannot ignore what we are asking of them. More actions are coming. We cannot afford to ease the pressure now. White supremacist culture has shaped this nation since before its founding, from colonial days when slavery was nearly universal, when my own ancestors in Boston held a person in bondage in the early 18th century. Through the Civil War, the Civil Rights Movement, those who benefit from inherited power have rarely surrendered it willingly. Our Constitution itself carries this disparity in its bones. And yet, amid the rise of the United States, 2 religious movements emerged proclaiming that all men are equal. Women, of course, were added later. The Unitarians and Universalists held lofty ideals, but they too lived within the limits and blind spots of their time. This afternoon, we'll explore how white supremacist culture shaped the first 150 years of our religious history, from the overt horrors of slavery to the quieter, subtler patterns that later emerged within religious humanism. In the months ahead, we will trace how even after our merger, we continue to wrestle with the cultural change in a nation where identities mix, collide, and evolve every day. And perhaps in this moment, we can begin to build a new context, one in which Unitarian Universalism becomes a living model for how people with different histories and different wounds can create a shared, resilient, compassionate faith, a faith capable of helping shape the future of humankind. The Bhagavad Gita teaches us we are called to act, but not to cling to the fruits of our actions. This work of noticing, naming, transforming the patterns of white supremacy culture is not about achieving a perfect world by next season. It is about showing up faithfully, humbly, consistently, trusting that each act of awareness, each moment of courage, each conversation rooted in truth is a seed. Amen.